Welcome. This is Jeffrey Meldon from Meldon Law, welcoming you to a special edition of Meldon Law and Friends. I'm here with my law partner, Carrie Meldon. How you doing today, Carrie?
Oh, I'm doing fine, Jeffrey. I'm happy to be here. We've got some great guests, which we'll introduce in a few seconds, and looking forward to another great Gator Day, Gator weekend. We've got some volleyball games going on, which you'll talk about, as well as the Gators taking on the University of Kentucky Wildcats, which I've heard is going to be one of the biggest games in Lexington history. The football stadium is already sold out, and the tickets are going for as much money as any other game this weekend other than the Alabama game, apparently.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be a big deal. They're undefeated. We only had that narrow loss to Alabama, so it's going to be a big game. What shocks me is even though we're on the road, we're still favored by 9.5 points.
I know, it's crazy, right? But the odds makers, who knows what they know or they don't know anymore. Last year was it was a different kind of year with COVID, and this year, they're all over the place. But they have to play the games. Whether we're favored or not is irrelevant. Once we hit the field, we got to be ready to play. And Kentucky is always well coached. They've got a great offensive line. They got some studs on defense, coached by Bob Stoops, or not Bob Stoops, Mark Stoops. Is it Mark Stoops?
Younger brother.
Okay,
Mark.
Yeah, Mark Stoops, who's Bob Stoops' brother and former defensive coordinator at FSU, and he has a formidable defense. So we'll see how it goes this weekend.
Anyhow, we got some ticket giveaways to announce. We have 6 tickets for the volleyball matchup against Ole Miss this Saturday at the O-Dome, 4 p.m., and we're going to give away two tickets and a set of 4 tickets. All you have to do is go to Meldon Law on Facebook, and you can enter the contest. We have had great response. Volleyball is really exciting. Mary Wise always puts together a great product, and we encourage everybody to go to Meldon Law on Facebook and enter, and you'll win the contest sooner or later. The other big contest we have is not for this weekend, but a week from Saturday. We've got homecoming, and Vanderbilt, which is kind of the stepchild of the SEC, is coming to town, and the Gators are going to be playing them, and we have 2 tickets for the Vandy game. It's a 12 noon game, plus a $100 gift certificate to Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, where we're broadcasting from today. So make sure that you go to Meldon Law on Facebook, and you will see both of those contests, and we encourage you to enter them. And Spurrier's Gridiron Grill is an incredible both museum and restaurant, and the food is farm to table. You will love it here. It is the best thing that's happened to this town as far as a restaurant in a long, long time. Anyhow, we're ready to get to our first guest today, who's a longtime sports hero in Marion County and this part of the state, Mike McGinnis. Welcome to our show, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, you were just talking, and Mike's been in Florida since he was about 10 years old, and moved down from Indiana. Mike, I read your bio, and I know you were really involved in sports as a youngster. Can you tell us a little bit about growing up, where you were located in Florida, and how you got involved in sports?
Sure. My father moved us down from southern Indiana to Pasco County, just north of Tampa. I started the 5th grade there, and I just enjoyed ball, if you will. Didn't have much going back in those days, but played Little League baseball and didn't play any Little League football. I didn't have such then, and played a little bit of basketball starting in the junior high school, and that was it. We didn't have any of those little feeder programs and other than Little League baseball. But anyway, I participated in high school and actually in 5 sports. And I was blessed in a way to have some wonderful mentors. My high school coaches were special to me, second fathers, if you will, big brothers, if you will, and that kind of led me into going into athletics to the point where my basketball coaches, I had two, one that took me under his wing early on, who was a little All-American at Anderson College in Indiana. His name was Jack Wilson, and he was really special to me, and I wanted to emulate him. And as a sophomore in high school, I was the sixth man on the team, and beg your pardon, I was the seventh man on the basketball team, and the first six guys were seniors. And we lost the first game of the year that year and won 30 straight games and then won the state championship in Class B. Wow. Of the four classes. That was the third class over in Alligator Alley at the time. The unique thing about that was we didn't have a gym. We played outdoors. We practiced on the concrete slab and played all our games away except for 2 or 3 games. So after that success that Coach Wilson had, he left. And I thought my world ended. I had no idea what was going on. A young guy came in named Chuck McKinney, who played at Carson Newman. He was from Wildwood and played basketball at Carson Newman. He came in, and back to the big brother part, he was like a big brother to me. And in my senior year, we went 30-4 and won the state championship again, still with no gym. Well, the exposure that I got.
Now, what high school were you playing for?
At Zephyr Hills High School,
wow.
Pasco County, yeah. The exposure that I got was able to have at the University of Florida because the state tournament was there. I can remember playing on the floor that I ended up playing on in college.
And what position were you playing?
Well, at 6'1" or 6 foot, I was actually 6 feet and 1/2 inch in high school, and I played inside. Played like a forward, but when I got to Florida, I was the second smallest guy on the team. You know, everybody else is bigger than me, and I played wing then in a 1-3-1 offense. But anyway, being able to play in the high school tournament in Gainesville at the University of Florida exposed me to the University of Florida staff. They watched all the games, and they offered me a scholarship.
Wow.
And it was a do-good scholarship, if you will. If I did good the first year, I'd get it the next year. And the rest is history.
So what year did you come to the University of Florida?
The fall of 64.
Wow.
Yeah, fall of 64.
So,
I graduated high school in 64.
So now the Gators were playing in Alligator Alley then,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what it was like for a kid from Zephyr Hills to come up here to Gainesville and play basketball with the Gators.
How about a culture shock? Would that be? It was different. Without getting too personal, my parents had divorced. Came from a broken family. I was the eldest of 4, and didn't have a cent to my name. Had a pair of shoes. Called a ride to come to Gainesville for the first time, and the ride dropped me off, and here I was.
Were you living in one of the dorms here?
Yeah. I lived with some other basketball players. You know, I checked in with at the athletic offices, found the basketball coaches, and went from there. Yeah, it was different. Looking back at it, I wonder how it ever happened, how I ever got through that.
Who were some of the other players on the team with you?
Well, when I first started, Gary Keller, who was a good friend of mine and continues to be, was one of the stars. He ended up playing in the ABA for several years.
He was a tall guy, right?
6'9", yeah.
And that was very tall back then.
Yeah, it was. Coach Sloan Norm Sloan recruited me, and he had a way to recruit. He recruited some good players and some tall players, but without getting into it, Coach Sloan was difficult to play for, very difficult. He was a different kind of person, and like I said, without getting into it, it made it pretty tough. So much so, in fact, I had a knee injury to start my sophomore year. We were playing Sunday afternoon, and I tore cartilage in my knee. And that gave Coach Sloan an opportunity to say, you can't make it, you're done. Mm-hmm. And so I literally was. I was no longer on the basketball team. I finished the year as a scholarship, on my scholarship, being the manager to the freshman team, believe it or not. And that allowed me the opportunity to go to school second year. But as things would have it, and as the Lord blessed me that Norm Sloan left and Tommy Bartlett came in, And I asked Coach Bartlett what the chances were, and things worked out, and I ended up being able to play for Coach Bartlett, and it was wonderful. Here I was from a no high school gym, lost my scholarship, had a knee injury, and I actually, my senior year, my 5th year, I actually started on the basketball team.
That's great.
Until another injury came about. That's another story.
What was the second injury?
Groin. I pulled a groin muscle to the point where our team physician actually had to suture it back into the pelvic bone.
Wow. Different times back then.
Yeah,
right?
it's different.
So,
but anyway, it worked out.
How did you end up in Ocala?
Briefly and quickly, when I finished my senior year playing basketball, the draft was in effect at the time. There's a good chance that I could have been drafted and sent to Vietnam at the time. And I didn't want to dodge it as such, but I needed to see if I was going to be qualified or not. And I went to take my physical at Jacksonville, and my knee had the knee injury that I had was questionable, and they said, well, we're going to call you back. Well, in the meantime, I started teaching and coaching in Alachua County. I coached boys basketball and assistant football coach out at Santa Fe High School for a year. Because I was in graduate school at the time, I moved right into trying to get a master's degree. To make a long story just a little bit longer, I ended up finding out that I wasn't qualified to go in the service. My knee kept me out. I became 4F, so that allowed me to go back to graduate school with no worries. I was married at the time. My wife and I had been married. We didn't have any kids. She was a teacher and coach out at Newberry High School, and I was at Santa Fe High School. Well, we decided that I should finish my master's degree, so we did that. And when I finished that master's degree, then I had the opportunity to move to Ocala to Central Florida Junior College at the time as an assistant basketball coach and a physical education instructor. So I did that. That was in 1971, I believe it was.
And the college was just getting started back then, wasn't it?
It was there, but there wasn't much going on down there. The campus was not anywhere near developed, but they did have a campus as opposed to meeting over at the middle school or something.
And they had a gym.
Yeah, they did have a gym. So I started out a couple years. That took me down there. Pat was, she's a physical educator, and she was teaching. And we had our first son. And then I ended up becoming the head basketball coach at the college and did that at CF and did that for 8 years. And it was very unsuccessful, disappointing, and got out of that and became the athletic director after a year. And so and on it goes.
Well, I know that you've been really involved in teaching and in coaching over the years. So during the 80s and 90s, were you still teaching?
Yes, I finished. I left I stayed in education for 28 years. I did that year in the public school system, and then all those other years down at CF in Central Florida, in Ocala. And I left there in '98. I had an opportunity after being the athletic director for 17 years. I had an opportunity to work for Scotty Andrews, our city manager in Ocala. He asked me to be the director of golf for our 2 golf courses. And I did that. It was a really unique opportunity to change careers, if you will, and not have to move and stay in the same bed and everything. And so it worked out pretty good. Didn't have an idea, though, what the bureaucracy was like and all the red tape was like.
So tell us a little bit about the golf courses in Ocala.
Well, there's only one now as far as the municipal course goes. We had 2. One was a 27-hole golf course, Pine Oaks. The other one, of course, was Ocala Golf Club over on the boulevard, which is thriving to this day. When Scotty Andrews was our city manager, he had golf in his blood and enjoyed it, and everything was good. When Scotty retired and we went to another city manager, things happened negatively.
Have you ever played those courses?
Yeah, I played Ocala National. They have such great golf courses in and around the Marion County area, and they're always in incredible condition. They're usually pretty affordable. You've got the Stone Creek golf course. You have what's the other one that's really long? It's kind of near Stone Creek. You probably
Well, Juliet Falls is out
Juliet.
towards Dunellen.
That
but
one's incredible. That's in Dunellen. But there's another one.
I just was there. You caught me off guard a little
You know
bit.
where I'm talking about, though.
Exactly.
It basically looks just like Stone Creek, except it doesn't have any water on it. It's a little bit longer, but they've got, of course, Golden Ocala, and I've heard, whisperings that maybe Odina is going to reopen, and they've got so many places that are incredible in Ocala. It's kind of underrated when it comes to its golf. Yeah,
golf mecca in a sense. When I was the director of golf, I could tell people at the time, I've been removed for quite a while now, that within 30 minutes of my office, and I was located at Pine Oaks, within 30 minutes we had 27 golf courses.
Sure.
And it's just amazing. I'll remember the name of that.
Now they're Candler Hills.
That's exactly what it is.
That's the one it
Good
is.
work.
See, I remember-
You
yeah,
beat
but they're
me.
all in incredible condition. When
Yeah.
you go down there, that was the first time I broke 80. Was at Stone Creek. Shot like a 78, and I remember it was because everything was in such good condition that when you're hitting off the fairways and you're putting on the greens, you're getting
nice.
you're not getting the ironwood bounces like you do in Gainesville, otherwise known as ironweed.
Okay, guys, we got to go to a break here for 60 seconds. We'll be back on Meldon Law and Friends. When you're a member of the Gator Nation, you know what it means to never back down. Meldon Law has been a proud supporter of the Gator Nation since 1971. Two forces that won't back down. As the old saying goes, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em.
Oh my gosh, I can't even believe this. Look what you have done to my truck.
Excuse me, it's your fault, it's not my fault.
Yes, it is your
No,
fault.
it's not, no,
I
it's
am
not.
calling Jeffrey Meldon from Meldon Law.
So I'm gonna call Jeffrey, my husband.
Meldon Law, this is Jeffrey speaking.
Jeffrey!
This crazy lady here,
honey.
this crazy lady, he might...
New client?
Yes, but this one might be a little tricky. We're back at Meldon Law and Friends with our special guest, Mike McGinnis, and my law partner, Carrie Meldon. Carrie, you were getting ready to ask Mike some really interesting questions. Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, we were talking about golf, and at the break, I wanted to get into the Ocala Quaterback Club. Mike is the captain of the Ocala Quaterback Club, and it's one of the more successful clubs in Florida. In fact, Ocala's Gator presence is almost unrivaled. In some respects, they have more fandom than Gainesville when it comes to these clubs that they've had in Marion County for years and years and years. So I'm really interested in what your experience has been with the Ocala Quaterback Club. Kind of maybe tell the listeners out there how you first got involved, and if they want to join, if they live in Marion County, how do they do it?
Sure. My involvement started in 1983, and when I was at college, at community college, and I became the athletic director, and Dean Gilligan, Bud Gilligan, was my boss, if you will. He was one of the two deans under Dr. Goodlett, our president, and he said, "Hey, we need to get the athletic department a little more exposed. What do you think?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "What about the quarterback club? Can you make some connections there?" And I did. I joined at that time. And that was in '83. Now, I remained a member of the quarterback club until, well, throughout. I still am. But 7 or 8 years ago, we had a program chairman, Kerry McDonald, who was there from the beginning. And Kerry was very involved with national prominent sports athletic people. He knew a lot of folks. And being the program chairman, he was able to bring some of those people in to speak to us. Kerry became ill, and they needed somebody to take over, and I got pointed at, and I accepted it. And I guess through my connections in sports officiating and athletics, I was able to take over that job, and I've done that for about 7 or 8 years. Then we lost our our captain of the quarterback club, and Buddy Martin asked me if I'd be interested in taking over. He actually shoved me into that position.
Of course, that's how it usually happens.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't really want to wear two hats. Actually, pretty much wore three. I'm a sports official, was a sports official, and I had a little bit of the program each Wednesday night. And a minute with Mike, we talked about football rules, where I was, what happened, various things like that. And now I was going to be into a third slot and being the captain of the quarterback club and kind of running the show. So I've done that for the last 4 years now, and so we've been fortunate to have the club we have, even through the COVID year when people were shutting down and all. We actually continued and maintained our membership. Dropped a few, but we stayed around 80 as far as our membership goes, and we had a pretty good attendance each week. Wasn't 80 every week, but we had a lot of guys. And this year we're back to 80 again.
That's great. Is it capped? I mean, can people join?
Oh yeah, we can still join, and they can get in touch with me. They can get in touch with you guys. They can get in touch with me. I don't have the information, but we got our mainmost guy is Wes Wheeler.
Right.
Wes is kind of our membership guy, our secretary, if you will. He does. He's assistant treasurer under Steve Lee, but Wes knows everybody. And
if you get on the internet and you Google Ocala Quaterback Club,
yeah.
Is it the only football related club in Marion County? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's not a Gator club. That's what we try to impress people. Now, 99% of us are Gators.
Yeah.
But we've got some guys in there from Alabama, Notre Dame, Mississippi State, and it's a football club.
They
It's
endure
college
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're misguided, but you put up with them.
That's good.
So anyhow, Mike, I wanted to talk a little bit about your career as a football official. We see the zebras down on the field all the time, and how'd you get into that?
Well, that's another interesting story. How much time we have here?
We got time.
I'm going to try to condense it. When I finished coaching basketball at the college level, junior college level, I had some spare time, but I'd also enjoyed playing softball. We had a pretty good slow pitch softball team that traveled around, and the guy that handled the team, the manager, if you will, was a good friend, a good Christian man, and he was a sports official, and a good one, and well recognized. His name was Bud Holt. And because I got out of coaching, Bud said, I want you to come with me tomorrow morning over at Ocala High School, Forest High School. And I didn't know what he was talking about, but I ended up going to a high school football officials meeting, and just getting a chance to talk to some of the guys. I knew some of the fellows because of my coaching basketball. Some of the guys that came up from Orlando to handle this high school football clinic actually officiated some of my college basketball games that I coached. So I knew, and all of a sudden I got the bug.
So how did you learn to be a football official?
Well, I don't know that I ever did, but through Bud and mentoring and clinics, I owned a whistle because I coached, but I can remember that I didn't have officiating shoes. I didn't own a pair of knickers, so I had to learn and all that stuff and buy the stuff. And Bud took me under his wing, and I started doing JV games and Little League Saturday Pop Warner type games. And eventually was able to move up, and ultimately got to a point where I was wearing the white hat and had my own crew as far as high school.
Explain to our listeners and viewers what wearing the white hat's all about.
Well, that's being the referee. That's the leader of the crew. He's the one that you see making the announcements. He's no smarter than anybody else and doesn't make any more money than anybody else as far as doing the games go, but somebody's got to lead the team, and that's him.
So did it stop in high school, or did you continue to progress in your career?
Let's go back to the quarterback club. I'm listening. I'm answering it this way. I'm listening one night to a college football official, Ned Wilford, who had a twin brother who officiated in the NFL. Ned was a hospital administrator down in Brevard County. He came under Carrie's invitation and spoke to the quarterback club when we met out at the Ramada Inn, Steinbrenner's Ramada Inn. And he spoke on officiating and his experiences, and it was pretty good. I was interested, and I was a high school official. Well, one thing led to the other. At the end of his speech, his talk, we went to say hi to him, and I introduced myself, and one of the guys that was with me said, hey, McGinnis officiates high school football. And he said, "Hey, we're looking for guys. Why don't you turn in an application?" I said, "Well, I don't know anything about it." I had no aspiration to be a college football official, especially because I've come to Gator games and I see them out there, and I don't know the rules. College rules are different than high school rules, and that was a little bit of a concern. Well, I got the application, and to make a long story a lot longer, I sent in an application, was declined. I sent in a second application the next year because they said if you're still interested, send it again. And a second year. Third year, I sent it in, and they sent a letter back and said, we're no longer interested in you, forget trying to apply. Well, by this time, I had an opportunity to be with, to work some of the Gator scrimmages. I knew some of the guys, and they knew I was trying, and they would invite me to come up and work some of the scrimmages and all. Galen Hall was the coach at the time, and then Steve Spurrier came along after a while. And those guys that I was working with apparently put a good word in for me. And the leadership in the conference office in Birmingham changed at that time.
Right.
The guy that was the supervisor was removed, and the new guy came in, and I guess the new guy was able to be encouraged by some of my guys, and I got in.
Is it the commissioner that decides who the officials are going to be?
No.
How does that work? Is it
There's a supervisor of football officials.
Okay.
And he's the deciding factor. And at the time, there was a committee. I remember going on for an interview.
Right.
And there was 33 of us, and they told us, I went to Birmingham in February, and those 33 guys were told that we were selected out of a group of 130 that had applied that year, and I thought that was pretty special.
Yeah.
Well, out of those 33, 6 of us were taken into the conference, and I was one of them, and I was the only one that had never taken or been involved in a college football snap ever.
I got to get something to Mike, because this is something that's on my mind.
Go
I
ahead.
know that you did a lot of unofficial officiating, and then you went up and did replay. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So I want to hear your thoughts on replay and what your experience was like, and how to improve it if it needs improving.
I was fortunate when I came off the field. I was a line judge in the conference for 15 years, wearing the stripes.
Just
blowing
the
whistles.
SEC
Yeah.
conference?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
Southeastern Conference only. Worked all over the country. I was fortunate. I've been from San Francisco to Miami, bowl games. Just really, really good, but not all on the field. After 15 years on the field, I got to be the age, and my knee that kept me out of the service was bad enough that I had to have a total knee replacement, and I was done. The supervisor at the time was Rogers Redding, and Rogers Redding I worked for him on his crew the last 4 years. We worked together. He retired the same year I did. And after 1 year, he became the supervisor and asked me if I would come to the replay booth. There's 2 positions in the replay booth. There's a communicator observer, who is the assistant replay official, and then there's a replay official. I was a communicator observer for 4 seasons, and then Rogers asked me to move over to the main seat.
Wow.
And I'm pointing to that main seat because you're the one. You're right there in the middle.
You're the one
there's
so
three.
that
You're making the
you were
final
making
call.
Yeah.
Whether to overturn a call.
Yep.
And
Gosh.
But
Crazy.
this guy, but the sorry to interrupt, but the communicator observer is another set of eyes, another opinion.
Right.
But still, you've got to make the call. Now, here's what's interesting. That happened for out of the 6 years that I was in that chair. The first 3, maybe 4 years, it was me. Then they said, we're going to hook you up to Birmingham. So now that guy, the main guy, has got headphones on and is talking to Birmingham the whole time. There's a room up there much bigger than this that's got every game going on.
That's insane. That's incredible.
It's amazing.
Incredible.
I'll tell you, Mike, we're going to have you back, because we could go on about this instant replay stuff on and on and on.
It'd be
I
our
know
pleasure.
it's a big
I
topic.
wish judges could do that, because I get a little upset sometimes. I get rolled against, and I think they need a replay official in the courtroom.
Well, we call it the appeals court, Gary.
I know, but it takes 8 months, and it's
I know.
you know.
And that's why we're going to delve into this topic at a later time. I want to thank Mike McGinnis for joining us today. We're going to be back for our second half of the show with a great Marion County celebrity, Buddy Martin. And we're going to go to a break right now, and we'll be back on Meldon Law and Friends in 3 minutes.
We still hear it. The sound of victory. The joy of being part of something great. And while things may not be the same right now, we haven't gone anywhere. If you bleed orange and blue, then Meldon Law is the firm for you.
And I was in an accident. Someone ran a red light and hit me, and I was hurt. You don't know where to turn. Luckily, I called Jeffrey. These big insurance companies, they don't want you to win. They truly don't. But Jeffrey and his firm and the people that work here, they just really fight for you. You call the law offices of Jeffrey Meldon, because you're going to need help, and they will help you.
Oh my gosh, I can't even believe this. Look what you have done to my truck.
Excuse me, it's your fault, it's not my fault.
Yes, it is your
No,
fault.
it's not. No,
I
it's
am
not.
calling Jeffrey Meldon from Meldon Law.
So I'm gonna call Jeffrey, my husband.
Meldon Law, this is Jeffrey speaking.
This crazy
wait,
here,
honey.
this crazy lady, he might...
New client?
Yes, but this one might be a little tricky. The Gator Nation will be the first to tell you that in all kinds of weather, we all stick together, which is why Meldon Law is honored to be the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. We hope you never find yourself the victim of a serious accident, but if you do, our team is here for you. Gators won't back down from a fight, and neither do we. The Meldon Law Firm from the beginning has been built on giving back to the community. I enjoy coming to work as much today as I did in 1971 when I opened my practice. I don't look at this as a job, I look at it as serving other people. While we're alive, what better feeling can you achieve than knowing that you've helped other people and thereby you enrich your own life? When you're a member of the Gator Nation, you know what it means to never back down. Meldon Law has been a proud supporter of the Gator Nation since 1971. Two forces that won't back down. As the old saying goes, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em.
We're back on Meldon Law and Friends, and our special guest for the second half of our show is the famous Buddy Martin. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Famous. I don't see it. How are you, Jeffrey? Thanks
I'm
for being
doing
on.
good.
I know this guy too.
Yeah, so Buddy is a legendary sports writer. He's written biographies for none other than Steve Spurrier. We're at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill right now. Buddy also wrote biographies for Urban Meyer and Terry Bradshaw, and has been a legendary sports writer all over the country for decades and decades, and is an Ocala native. And we want to welcome you to the show, Buddy. It's a great honor to have you here.
It's an honor to be here. When people say legends, they mean you're old. That's what it is. So I'll take that. That's okay.
Well, in order to accomplish all you have, it takes a few years,
does take
right?
a while.
So I'm going to start off right away.
Okay.
You know, you've written biographies on these three great sports legends. In your opinion, what separates them from other people? What makes them legendary as far as what they've accomplished?
Well, they got different DNA for one thing, but they're very much the same competitor. They all love to win, and they all have different ways they approached it. They're all strong leaders, and I just think the commonality is winning. When you talk about Terry Bradshaw, 4 Super Bowls in 6 years.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive, right?
Yeah, I
When you
mean,
talk about Steve Spurrier, his 6 conference championships and his national championship.
there's
Always-
7 conference
No,
champions.
6. Spurrier counts as 7. I know the real story. He can claim it, but he can't. It's a mythical one. Okay, it was no doubt about the fact that they would have won it had they been eligible. But the fact is, it's 6. But then more importantly, he turned the program around. I'm a long-suffering Gator fan. I've been longer than you even. That's a lot, okay? And I remember the days when a 5-5 record was okay and getting to a bowl game, and that was it. SEC? Nah, it's never going to happen. National championship? Don't make me laugh. Spurrier came in right off the bat and he turned it around right away. And what he did, one of the great coaching jobs in the history of the game, and you talk to good coaches, they'll tell you just how good this guy is. So then, of course, Urban I got to know pretty well, has a great experience writing his book because I got to be embedded with the team. I actually got to go in the locker room. I got to go on Thursday night, family night meals. I got to go on the field, running on the field with the team one time to experience that. Tennessee game, the ground was shaking him out under my feet. It was so loud. Spending time with Urban as I did, and I got another way of looking, another insight to a coach in a program I'd never seen before. So they're all unique, all 3 of them, all different, but the commonality is they know how to win.
And what is it that develops that within a personality?
Well, it's pretty complex, isn't it? Urban, of course, is when I did his book, I talked to 50 or 60 people before doing this book, including his best friend in high school, and all the way through. And he told me in the book, before Urban ever finished coaching at Florida, he said he won't coach in the NFL. He won't leave to go to another college because he'll spill his guts out on the field. He said what he'll do is he probably just die right there on the sideline because that's what he said. He puts everything he's got into the game. Pretty prophetic. He thought he was going to die when he got sick. And some people just don't get it, that whole myth about the fact that, he faked it because that's not true. I know because I was in his home the day he decided he wanted to coach again. Wow. I know why. So I'm just saying, I don't mean to say I'm more insightful than you or you. I'm just saying that's the truth.
Well, you certainly were closer to him.
I had a good seat. I really did. I got to know him pretty well. Then, of course, this year I got to do his podcasts, which we were doing while he was the Jaguars coach. So they're all unique. They all want to win. Now, Spurrier's no joy to be around when he loses, let me tell you.
Right.
The year or so I spent doing his autobiography, I found
What year was that, buddy?
Well, that was 4 years ago.
Okay, so post South Carolina. Or
during South Carolina. In fact, that's the thing that happened in the process. The book process takes a while. You got to get an agent, you got to get a contract, you got to go and do the research. And that was about it was a 24-year process with Steve.
Wow.
We agreed to do it 24 years ago. And then Steve decided he didn't want to do it then. And so in, 2017, my phone rang one day while I was on the air doing the show, and it was Coach. He said, buddy, remember that book we were going to do? I said, yeah. He said, you want to still do it? And I said, yeah, let's do it. And so there we were, and we did it 24 years later. But it took us a little, not that much to write it. But yeah, I was during South Carolina, and during the process of doing the book, he resigned from South Carolina. I thought, great. I'm doing a book on Steve Spurrier. He just quit his job. Well, what am I going to do there? My agent said, don't panic, whatever. Of course, the rest of the story was it worked out perfectly. He came here as an ambassador. He came back here coaching the bottles. And so we're going to do, at least Freddie Weeby tells me, try to do another add-on to the book, maybe a separate book about his career after that. And when he got to the Apollos, when he got here, the things that have happened to him. He's had quite a unique life.
I think that I've talked with Coach a little bit, and he's really excited about the future and everything that's going on.
He is, and I was doing my show this morning, well, last night with Shane Matthews, and he talked about how Coach Spurrier was always, look, we're going to go out there, we're going to do this, this, and this, and it's not going to go good all the time. It's going to go bad, it's going to go good. We just got to weather the storm, keep playing, and good things will happen. And that was his philosophy, and it worked out pretty well, I'd say.
Yes. Quick question. Going back to Urban Meyer, I wanted to ask you this because I just was thinking about this last week. Someone brought it up, and I was like, oh, wow, that's actually interesting, is that out of everyone that's eligible to be in the Florida's Ring of Honor, which is a very, very elite group, there's, 4 or 5 people in the Ring of Honor. I think the only person as of today that is eligible to be inducted into the Florida Ring of Honor that's not is Coach Urban Meyer. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. I don't know the backstory on it. I don't know whether the COVID year had anything to do with it. I don't know if it was just an unpopular. I don't know the story, but he's going to be in the Ring of Honor.
I think so. He
can't have
deserves
a guy-
it. Absolutely.
2 national championships?
And he brought Tim Tebow to
that-
Gainesville, and Tim Tebow is probably, next to Steve Spurrier, the most iconic Gator of all time.
Yeah, he's right there with Steve. And again, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think it's going to matter of time. And I've talked to Urban about this. Just he's not contentious about it. He's not worried about it. He doesn't ever bring it up. But one thing I thought was very interesting was recently at the game when Urban was introduced to the sidelines
With
during the game.
Spurrier, yeah.
With Steve.
Yeah.
And I talked to Steve about that. So that's good because Urban has told me, when I came here, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to follow what Steve Spurrier did. And someone asked him in the first press conference about a visor. Do you wear one? He said, I wouldn't wear one around here if I did. Yeah. And he said, what did you think of Spurrier? He said, I loved the way he coached. I loved his team. I loved the way they ran on the field. I loved the way they ran their offense. I loved everything about what Steve Spurrier did. Great admirer of Spurrier. Yet Steve has that thing going for him that he was the first. He brought the national championship for the program. He will always be held in high regard.
Well, he was also a Gator player. Steve will always be the ultimate Gator unless Tim Tebow comes and coaches to 3 or 4 national championships. Then there might be an argument. Otherwise, Steve's number one.
Exactly.
But I wanted to do one last follow-up question. I'll let you then go, because this is interesting to me. I don't get to talk sports very often. This is
You're going to come on my show sometime.
Well, I'd love to. But, Buddy, so with regards to Urban Meyer and Steve Spurrier, of course, now we have Dan Mullen. And Dan Mullen does wear the visor. My question is, and I've always wondered this, and I'm putting you on the spot on our podcast.
I don't mind.
Do you think that Coach Mullen listens to Steve Spurrier and draws up any plays based upon his conversations with Steve Spurrier? That would be my question.
Interesting time to ask that question because we had this conversation on our show or with the conversation with Chris Doring, whatever. Remember the play where Trent Whittemore got the double pass?
This past weekend.
This past weekend. That's a play that came out of Mullen's mothballs, was called Kodak.
Okay.
After Kodak Black, they named it after him, and they ran it a couple of years ago, and they audible that play in, which is really rare to audible a trick play. I mean,
yes.
It's a timeout, right?
Right.
But here's the thing. Excuse me. To answer for your question, if you look back at the SEC championship game, I want to say it was 95. I can't remember the year. There was a play in there where Doring threw a pass like that. And, a very similar pass. And if you talk to Shane, they'll say, yeah, they probably took that from, Coach Spurrier or whatever. But, I mean, look, that's not anything new. Everybody takes stuff. There's no question that Urban, that he coached Urban's offense. People don't know what a big voice. He really had a lot of say when he was coaching the offense, Dan. Because I was on the headsets listening to call plays. And I remember Urban saying, let's keep the ball, let's keep it on the ground. And Mullen would challenge him, say, Coach, we got to put it up. We got to go for it. Let's run our offense. I mean, he didn't.
Honestly, is there a better play caller in college football than Dan Mullen?
Not right now.
I don't think there is. I really don't.
Yeah, not right now. And I think that's Couple of points, Gary, real fast if we got time.
Well, wait. We're going to go to a quick break, and then we're going to come back with the answer to that question about who's the best play
That's a
caller
great
in
team.
college
That's a great
football.
team. Yeah,
We'll be
great.
back
Come on back.
on Meldon Law and Friends with Buddy Martin.
When you're a member of the Gator Nation, you know what it means to never back down. Meldon Law has been a proud supporter of the Gator Nation since 1971. Two forces that won't back down. As the old saying goes, if you can't beat them, join them. The Gator Nation will be the first to tell you that in all kinds of weather, we all stick together, which is why Meldon Law is honored to be the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. We hope you never find yourself the victim of a serious accident, but if you do, our team is here for you. Gators won't back down from a fight, and neither do we.
Welcome back to Meldon Law and Friends. I'm Jeffrey Meldon with Meldon Law. I'm here with my partner, Carrie Meldon, and our special guest, Buddy Martin. Carrie, you were going to ask Buddy a question. Why don't you follow up?
No, he was talking about how there's different coaching styles and how Meyer wouldn't wear the visor. And of course, Dan Mullen wears the visor. And we were talking about how he's so brilliant. And, the question was, does he talk to Spurrier about their offense? Because they're both off. I think they're both probably top 5 minds in college football.
Yeah, Spurrier was as good as there was. I mean, he was somebody better.
Well,
than
he was revolutionary.
Yeah.
Back when he came here in 1990, the SEC was run, right?
He had transformed the whole SEC. He really did. If you talk to guys who know X's and O's, I'm not one of them. I know a little bit. That was the reason. But what I wanted to say was, there's a couple of points I wanted to make about this Gator team in Mullen. I go on a lot of shows, like I'm doing a couple of national shows this afternoon. Not that I'm anybody important, but they're just 8 people, and I'm available, cheap and available, as Spurrier says. And I want, that's his
Steve's
favorite.
not
Oh, yeah.
cheap.
Yeah, but that's what he tells people when he hires them. Well, you were cheap when you were available, so that's me. But I wanted to say, sometimes when I go on these shows, I say what I think, and sometimes it's very favorable to Florida, and I can hear him say, yeah, he's a homer. Yeah, he's a homer. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit, but I try to be honest and assess things. And I've said when they hired Mullen right away, I like to hire. I like his offensive skills. He'll figure it out. And also, when you start talking about this year's team, nobody believed this team was going to be any good. I say any good, meaning good potential, because they lost 3 guys last year who represented over 5,000 yards in offense. Well, they can't be any good. They lost all these players. And I would say to people, not so fast, my friend. I didn't tell you to say that. But there are players on this team you're going to hear about. And obviously Emory was one. I didn't even know about Anthony Richardson yet. Now that even impresses me more. I said the wide receiver core is going to be okay. They got some guys who can play. All right. Offensive, and they can't run the ball. I said, who said they can't run the ball? I don't get that. So there are points here and counterpoints. The national narrative is always a half a beat behind.
Yeah.
They don't quite know what's going on. Now, I don't get to see practice, but I have friends who do. And I was pretty comfortable. This team was 8 wins, 10 wins, whatever you want to say. Actually, I think I picked them to win 11 games before the season started. Because the one thing I didn't know about was the defense. Now we're seeing what we think is a sort of revival, rejuvenation of this defense, which they desperately need. They played pretty good at times against Tennessee. The secondary, they lost their – look who they've lost.
Yeah.
Ventrell Miller, I mean, he was out, and they lost 4 or 5 key players, and plus Anthony Richardson. There's 4 or 5 key players that haven't got a chance, couldn't play. Now, this team now is not playing its best football. Their best football is ahead. I don't know whether it'll be Saturday night in Lexington or not. I can tell you this. If this team plays as good as it can, they can beat everybody, including Georgia.
And I agree. I think the one difference, Buddy, in my mind, is that with Spurrier, you always knew he was going to win. The margin of error wasn't that thin. With the Dan Mullen teams, I feel like the margin of error is a little bit more thin in terms of you can't make as many mistakes. Spurrier, remember when Spurrier went down 21 or 28 points to South Carolina? I don't know if you remember, I don't know what year that was. I think it was maybe 98 or 2. I don't know what year it was. He went down 21-0 to South Carolina, and I knew he was going to win. And guess what? He came back and he won the game.
Well,
he was
Dan
at
Mullen
Florida.
went down 21-3, the national champions, and almost won.
But didn't. Yeah, he almost won. Now,
Well,
he has one more step to take, and I can't wait to see it because I think Mullen is – I wouldn't want anyone else coaching the offense in the country besides Dan Mullen. The defense, like you said, is taking great steps. And just like what was the famous Spurrier line that he would say? I would take your 11 and
actually, it was Bum Phillips.
Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
why
I
did
could
I
take his and it'd be urine, you put urine and it'd be his.
Yeah.
That's what Bum Phillips said.
And then what did Spurrier said? Some iteration of that too.
Well, probably, who knows? But that was good, I'm sure. Whatever it was.
Okay, so listen, I want to switch the topic right now to the Georgia-Florida game. Last year, we won that game, okay?
Oh, wait a minute, they did? Because I didn't think so. Where we were talking about the preseason, like, well, Georgia is going to win the SEC East. And Mullen said, do they remember that we won Georgia last year? I mean, and that's what I'm talking about. They like, oh,
The
that
narrative.
never happened, you know. And then,
Yeah, well, and then Georgia comes out and beats Clemson, and everybody's going, oh, you know.
How's that
well,
going?
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
and
they lost two?
Yeah, they
really?
lost
Wow.
two, yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought they mailed that ballot in. And I thought Georgia's quarterback, JT Daniels, has won the Heisman already. I must be listening to the wrong channel.
So anyhow, so we got this, look, we've got big games, Kentucky, I don't count Vandy really, but
No.
LSU's on the road.
We'll see.
Anything could happen there.
Missouri's tough. They're not an easy out.
Yeah.
They
So
got beat last week. by a team they shouldn't have got beat by.
Yep.
going up to Jacksonville and playing Georgia again this year, I can assure you that Georgia has the game against Florida circled on their calendar
Several times.
If there's one game they've got focused in on, that's it, because
It's a must-win for Kirby Smart. I mean, he's been coach there for 6 or 7 years. If he can't beat the Gators this year, I don't know where he's going to be going moving forward. He's got a great team, but you have to win the SEC East to continue in either UF or Georgia. You can't lose it too much.
Georgia is ranked number 2 in the country. I don't think Kirby Smart's job is on the line.
Good point.
However, I do think that the SEC this year is pretty amazing. Arkansas, right?
Great story. Probably going to end this weekend, but a great story so far. And I love Sam Pittman. I think he's really fun. There's several good. Everybody kept telling me how good Texas A&M is. What happened to them this weekend? There's a lot on the table. As they say in pool, the game's on the table, still. And I think this is, people keep talking about Georgia. Show me, 1980, we know what that means. And so, look, Kirby Smart is a terrific coach. And I love Shane Beamer's comments at post-game last week. They got beat by him. They said, what happened against Georgia? He said, what happened? They got like 100 5-stars on defense, and that's right. They do. They get loaded with coach. But the downside of that is you better keep them all happy because there's something called the transfer portal out there, and it ain't easy. And by the way, you still got to have a team that meshes together. And Georgia's got good players. Good players don't automatically make a great team.
That's correct. I mean, how has Nick Saban done it? He's kept that team amazing for so many years.
He keeps them hungry. He coaches them hard. He recruits like crazy. He's got a machine. Look, you got a big advantage when you get invited to go on Monday Night Football and be on with the Manning brothers. Because, by the way, it just so happens that Nick is recruiting their son, Arch Manning.
Oh.
Was that a little bit of an advantage right there? But,
I was really impressed with their quarterback because that Gator environment I think it was one of the best environments I've ever been in when we played Alabama. It was electric.
Awesome. It was awesome. And always remember, somewhere should be written down in here. They didn't win the game. That 99-yard drive was to behold.
Incredible.
That was remarkable.
The Naquan Wright drive, right?
Exactly. He and Emory
Yeah.
They're the only guys that touch the ball, I think.
I got to ask you. I got to ask him. AR-15. Is he going to be part of this team this year or what? What's going to happen?
Be part of it. The question with the hamstring, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know. I love watching that guy play football. I've said this on the air nationally, and he's the most exciting young quarterback in Florida I have ever seen. Mm-hmm. What he can do, his skill level, he doesn't know the offense yet. And Shane Matthews keeps reminding me, well, he's got to know how to do the offense, got to do that. Look, talent is important too. Mm-hmm. Talent-wise, he's amazing. I love watching him play. And yes, he will be a part of it.
That's awesome.
You just got to hope that hamstring stays healthy.
So the Final Four this year, okay, who are you calling?
You're going to make me do this now. Oh, man, I change every week. I got to go back. Well, obviously, Georgia, Alabama got to be in there, although one will get knocked out. I think that they can survive it, Well, Ohio State's gone. Oregon. Oh, let's see. It's going to be a Big Ten team has to emerge.
Yeah.
With Ohio State. I don't know what's going to happen.
Ohio State doesn't play anybody tough for the rest of the year.
Michigan.
Well, Michigan's playing better, I will say that. Yeah. I can't make up my mind there yet. I think they're playing better in the Pac-12, and I don't know which team to pick there. I thought it might be Oregon. So let me get back to you on those four.
Okay, what about Oklahoma?
Well, they didn't play too well last week.
That's right.
And they didn't play well for a couple of weeks, and I'm beginning to see cracks in that deal, So then who's going to take that Big 12 spot? I don't know. That's why it's hard for me to say.
Or Cincinnati beats Notre Dame this weekend.
I'm not going for Cincinnati.
No matter what.
No, I mean, they're a mid-major, let's be honest.
They are. Yeah, I agree with you.
Good story, there's a good coach, all that. But, again, don't sell me Cincinnati until they do it one time, all right? I just can't go there right now. And I got to see what's exciting about this year is that we don't know yet. It hasn't revealed itself. And I can't put another, it's going to be, it may be Florida, it may be Georgia, and Alabama, both, because that game would decide a lot. I don't know in the I'm not sure in the Pac-12, and I just can't pick it out just yet. So I don't think it's going to be Arkansas, I'll be honest with you there. So it's yet to be determined.
Ole Miss is playing Alabama this weekend, and anything could happen with Lane Kiffin.
I don't know. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin said last night, last year when we played them, he said they had 6 number 1 draft picks. We had 2 guys that got drafted, period. That's it. For all this. There's a little disparity of talent there, I love Lane Kiffin. I love their quarterback. I think I think he's the best quarterback in college football right now.
And that's the great equalizer, right? The quarterback position.
No doubt about it.
No
doubt about it. That is definitely. But there's been some ups and downs on that, too. The quarterbacks haven't panned out. Mm-hmm. So it's just a topsy-turvy week. It might be Oklahoma. It could be, I don't know who will emerge in the Big Ten. I just don't know.
So, buddy, I want to ask you, what are the favorite things that you're doing in your life right now?
I still love to write. That's my heart and soul. I come from a long line of writers in my family. My dad and my grandfather are all journalists. My 3 kids all majored in it, and none of them use it. But I love to write. It's hard work. It's not easy, and I'm not complaining. But the great Red Smith once said, how long does it take you to write a column? He said 45 years and 45 minutes to type it. And he said, well, how do you write it? He says, you just open up a vein and bleed for an hour. That's what you do. And it's hard. But I'd like to think maybe I still got a little bit of a touch on writing, which I try to show in Gatorbait, my magazine, every week.
How do the listeners get a subscription to Gatorbait?
You know what? I'm glad you asked. You go to GatorbaitMedia.com. Mm-hmm. It's been around for 42 years. We bought it 2 years ago, and we wanted to preserve it. So I basically financed it on my 401k, and I got a bunch of good people working for very little money. They're cheap and available to close area. And we hope to preserve this someday as a lighthouse. We call it a lighthouse group. So we can take this and use it to teach young journalists how to really be a good reporter. That's our goal someday. So you're going to be a part of that.
Well,
it's just right. That's right down your alley, by the way. And we've talked to some people I'm excited about. Give me a little time. Let me get past the COVID. We survived that. Mm-hmm. I love the work we do there with our people, the young people we got. Fantastic young people. So that gives me great joy. To work with young people is a great joy. I love doing that. And then, of course, I'm a grandpa, so I have to have, I'm up 4 grandchildren, which I love a lot.
Well, listen, buddy, we have got to end our show right now. However, you are going to be coming back soon
I get brought
because
back.
we got to have you back again. And
I feel like Johnny Carson just invited me back.
that's right. When you're having a good time, there's no reason to stop.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. You guys are gonna come back on the other side of my show sometime.
Absolutely.
And how do listeners get to your show?
Okay, it's very simple. It's like you, Gator. It's actually on Facebook Live, and it's the Buddy Martin Show. And every night, 4 nights a week at 9:00, and then we do a noon show. Freddie Weeby's here on that show, and we do show food and whatever. And then we have writers from around the country to weigh in on the games that weekend. So we're on and to say DM me if you want to know more, Buddy Martin, and we'll tell you. But we're on the Facebook Live 9:00 during the week, noon on Fridays.
Thank you very much, Buddy Martin, for joining us on Meldon Law Friends, and we'll be back next week with another exciting show. Thanks.